Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're taking on a topic that is, fundamentally human and universally experienced, but it's one we often feel just completely unprepared for.
hmm
How to talk about someone who has died. We all know that feeling, that profound awkwardness that just descends when you're trying to talk to a friend who's grieving.
Yeah, it's the silence that's really the problem, isn't it? I mean, loss touches everyone eventually. But when it actually comes time to speak to the person directly affected,
Mm.
the conversation just freezes up.
It just stops.
Yeah. We get paralyzed by this fear of saying the wrong thing. And sometimes that anxiety makes us say nothing at all, which honestly is often the worst possible outcome.
Exactly. So our mission today, based on, stacks of sources we've pulled from grief experts, social workers, and just real life experiences, is to distill all of this into, actionable, humane language.
Huh.
We're really looking for strategies that go way beyond the vague stuff you'd find printed on a sympathy card.
Right. And we want to tackle that social anxiety head on because the core insight we pulled from all our sources is it's surprisingly straightforward. Most grieving people just want their loved one to be remembered, to be named and, spoken of naturally. The awkwardness, the avoidance, the sudden silence around their name that can just amplify the isolation they're already feeling.
That's a really powerful foundation to start from. So if the goal is connection and warmth, let's dive right into the first key strategy, which sounds almost deceptively simple.
It does.
Use their name freely.
This point came up across every single source. It's
Yeah.
absolutely essential. I mean, think about the emotional difference between saying, I'm thinking of Sarah and this huge loss versus...
Versus the more distant, I'm thinking of your mom, or God forbid, the really cold one, the deceased.
Exactly. When you avoid the name, you're sort of avoiding the reality that this person lived.
Yeah. And the sources consistently suggested that people who are grieving feel this powerful wave of relief or even gratitude when you mention the person directly. It's like this immediate confirmation that their life was real.
That it mattered.
And that it still has an impact.
From a psychological standpoint, avoiding the name, it paradoxically makes the absence feel bigger, heavier.
Yeah.
If everyone's walking on eggshells around the person's name, it's like the world is conspiring to erase them.
Which just adds another layer of stress to the whole process.
Naming them is the simplest way to acknowledge the love that was there.
So once we've opened that door just by using the name, the next step is moving into a shared connection. And that means sharing memories, but the key here seems to be about specific anecdotes, not trying to force some big emotional moment.
Exactly. These are conversational invitations. You want to focus on opening phrases that are really gentle. Something like, I remember when Sarah told that story about, or maybe one thing I'll always think of about your dad is how much he loved that old blue sweater.
That immediately lowers the stakes. You're not demanding they give you a eulogy right there on the spot.
Yeah.
You're just offering a shared piece of joy or humanity from the past.
And that shared piece of history is where the real connection happens.
Yeah.
Specific, even light recollections.
Yeah.
They invite genuine connection. We have to remember that grief isn't just sadness.
Right.
Laughter and tears can, and often do, coexist in the same story.
Yeah.
A light memory doesn't diminish the loss. It honors the joy that defined that person's life.
And the specificity is what makes it land. Generic praise just feels empty, but a specific memory, that feels like a gift.
Totally.
So, moving on a little, let's talk about acknowledging the pain itself. You have to acknowledge what's happened, but again, all our sources were really clear. Simplicity and honesty are key. Simple is just better because it's more honest. The phrases that land well are usually short. Things like, I'm so sorry this happened.
Or, this must be incredibly hard. Yeah. Those statements are direct. They avoid that emotional trap of sounding overly dramatic, performative. They just validate the reality of the moment.
And this brings us to a huge piece of advice that almost every single grief counselor flagged. You have to avoid the reflexive question, how are you?
Oh, it's so ingrained in us. And it sounds kind, but in the context of acute grief, that question is it's intensely loaded.
Why is that? What's the problem?
Well, when someone is grappling with this overwhelming sorrow, asking, how are you, forces them into a really difficult social calculation. It's like, do I lie and say I'm fine just to make you comfortable?
Or do I just drop the devastating truth on you?
Exactly. And now they're suddenly responsible for managing your reaction, which is energy they just do not have.
It's a burden.
It is. A much better step is to open a path without demanding anything. Something like, I'm here if you ever want to talk about them.
Or even, no need to reply, but I wanted you to know I'm thinking of you.
Yes, that offers a choice. It doesn't demand immediate emotional output. And speaking of actionable steps, let's talk about that infamous vague promise.
Ah, yes. The well-meaning but ultimately useless, let me know if you need anything.
It's a failure of support, really, even with the best intentions. It just delegates the hardest part of getting help, the identifying, the asking back onto the person who's already completely exhausted.
So it's the difference between just sympathy and actual tangible support. We need to shift from vague comfort to concrete action.
This is where we get into what some sources call the cognitive load of grief. When your brain is processing trauma and loss, your capacity for complex decision-making just plummets.
You just don't have the mental space.
You literally don't. You can't compile a list of needs, match them to someone's availability, and then make a clear request. It's too much.
So the offer only works if it's specific. You have to remove the burden of decision-making for them.
Absolutely. The source examples are perfect models for this. Can I bring dinner over next Tuesday at 6?
Or would it help if I picked up your groceries this afternoon?
Yes. When you offer something concrete, with a time and a date, it only requires a single low-effort response. Yes or no. That feels so much more genuine and supportive.
You're asking for a yes or no, not asking them to map out their entire life for you.
That is exactly right.
Yeah.
And this brings us to the final sort of quieter pillar of this whole thing. It's the skill of listening and what the experts call holding space.
This can be the hardest part, I think, especially for people who are natural problem solvers. The mandate from our sources is so clear on this. Listen more than you speak. You're not there to fix their pain. You're not there to solve anything. And crucially, you're not there to compare their loss to your own.
And when they do share, your responses should be quiet, reassuring, a simple nod. That sounds so tough.
Or even just, thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah. The sources really emphasize that silence, even though it feels uncomfortable for the supporter, is perfectly acceptable. It's okay.
Why is that silence so important? What does holding space actually mean in practice?
When you hold space, you're signaling that you're comfortable with their discomfort. You're not rushing to fill the void with distractions or solutions.
Ah, okay.
Psychologically, this allows for what's called co-regulation. The grieving person feels safe enough to release emotion because they know they're not being judged. They can feel their pain without fearing that you're going to try and shut it down. That quiet presence is intensely supportive.
Okay, so now that we've established what effective support looks and sounds like, we have to flip the script. We need to break down the common communication traps, the phrases we hear all the time that can inadvertently cause harm.
This is the counter toolkit, and it's so important to understand the why behind why these fail. First up, the minimizer.
Right, this is any phrase that tries to lessen the pain by, forcing some perspective too early.
The classic examples are anything that starts with at least, like at least they lived a long life, or at least you have other people.
Ugh.
That phrase, at least, just immediately invalidates the raw, acute pain they're in right now. The sources are definitive. Avoid it completely. Grief needs space to be felt before any kind of silver lining can even begin to form.
Trying to skip ahead just makes them feel misunderstood.
Completely.
Okay, the next trap is one I think we've all been guilty of, and it comes from a good place, but it's the false equivalent.
This is saying, I know exactly how you feel. And that statement is damaging because, well, no one ever truly knows exactly how another person feels.
Even if the loss is similar.
Even then, say you've both lost a parent. Your unique relationship, your specific memories, your personal grief journey, they are all inherently different. It just shuts down their specific experience.
But wait, I have to ask, if I lost my dad last year and my friend just lost hers, isn't there real value in sharing that? Do the sources say to never compare?
That's a great question. It's an important nuance. They caution against it early on. Later, if you want to share, you use softer language. You lead with your vulnerability, not with a claim.
So instead of, I know how you feel, you'd say
something like, when I went through this, I found that. Or, I remember feeling just this profound emptiness. That language invites them to connect, if they want to, without imposing your journey on theirs. Never start with, I know.
That makes a difference so clear. It's about sharing your experience humbly, not claiming ownership over theirs.
Precisely. Next up, let's talk about the phrases that try to assign some cosmic meaning to a tragedy. We call these the dismissives.
Okay, so we're talking about everything happens for a reason.
Or they're in a better place. When someone is struggling to just get through the day, a high-level philosophical statement about the divine purpose of their pain. It's not helpful.
It can feel really alienating.
Deeply. These phrases just dismiss the current suffering. They feel cold.
And then there's the one we call the grief shamer.
This is telling someone they wouldn't want you to be sad or you need to be strong for everyone else.
Right.
It's so unhelpful because grief is a natural, necessary response to losing someone you love. It subtly suggests their sadness is betraying the person's memory, which is piles guilt on top of everything else. It's an impossible standard.
And a final boundary note. Avoid pressing for details about the mechanics of the death unless they specifically invite that conversation.
Yes. When you press for those specifics, you're often just prioritizing your own curiosity over their comfort. Reliving those painful details takes immense energy. If they want to share, they will.
So when we strip away all those traps, we're left with those short, specific phrases we talked about earlier. They really are a safety net.
Let's just quickly review them. I've been thinking about Sarah and how much she loved going hiking, or just, I miss your dad too. That shared sense of loss can be so comforting.
And if you need to reach out but you know they're just overwhelmed, the perfect phrase is, no need to reply, just sending love and thinking of you. It honors the connection without creating an obligation.
And that leads us perfectly into the long game of support.
Yes, because we have to talk about the timeline of grief. That first week or two, there's often this intense outpouring of support. But what happens a few months later?
When the funeral is over and the emails stop, that's what we call the keep reaching out mandate. A steady, sustained presence months later. It matters immensely.
Why then, specifically?
Because that's when the initial crowd is thinned out, and the reality of the long-term absence really sets in. Grief doesn't just disappear. For many, that's when the pain deepens, as the initial shock wears off.
So scheduling a concrete offer, say, 3 months out or on the 6-month anniversary, could be even more powerful than the immediate help.
Oh, absolutely. It shows you haven't forgotten. It shows you understand that grief is a marathon, not a sprint. It's that consistent, gentle check-in that becomes an anchor.
And thinking about longevity, we have to talk about how modern life has completely changed the landscape of remembrance, specifically through digital spaces.
It's a fascinating evolution. Today, a lot of families set up these curated digital spaces, private social media groups, online memorials, where friends can post memories and photos whenever they feel like it.
So it allows people to engage with the memory without the pressure of a face-to-face interaction or a formal timed event. It becomes an asynchronous conversation.
Exactly. And the language is often different, too. It's more about short, punchy anecdotes or visual memories. It turns remembrance into this open, living thread.
An open living thread. I like that.
Yeah, it allows the community to keep adding to the person's story across distance and time instead of sealing their history into one single closed event.
It also addresses that challenge of permanence versus privacy. Families can control the narrative, but still let the community honor the person publicly.
And it gives permission for that connection to keep evolving. It becomes a digital biography that keeps growing, and that sustained memory that can be an incredible comfort in the long haul of grief.
So as we wrap this deep dive, let's distill it all back down to 3 final, actionable takeaways you can use right away.
First, name them often. Keep them integrated into everyday conversation. Grief shrinks when the person stays part of the talk.
Second, be specific. Use concrete memories when you share and make concrete offers when you support. Specificity shows real, genuine care.
And third, avoid silver linings. Don't diminish the pain. Acknowledge that suffering needs space before any kind of perspective can be introduced.
We started this deep dive acknowledging that talking about someone who has died, it often freezes us with anxiety. But by leading with honesty, specificity, and heart, we can stop that awkward silence. By keeping their name and their stories alive, we honor the love that really doesn't end.
And for you, the listener, remember that your steady, authentic presence matters so much more than getting the perfect words. These strategies are a toolkit. They're there to help you navigate these moments and just be present.
Now here's something for you to mull on this week that builds on that power of long-term remembrance. If you were building a memorial for someone today, traditional or digital, which element would you focus on to ensure the language heals rather than hides, the specificity of a single, detailed, shared memory, or the longevity of an open, living digital thread that ensures the conversation never truly has to close?